Hello everybody and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video we will be talking about how Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if he were to be elected president in 2024, just how that would play out on the electoral map. Now first of all, before I get into this video, I do want to say that this is simply a hypothetical scenario, right? This is not a prediction by any means. I really doubt that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as of right now at least, can win even a single state. We will see how that plays out through election season. He might have a shot in states like Maine, New Hampshire, Alaska, and Utah, to name a few. But as of right now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is very unlikely to win the presidency. But looking at the electoral map, if he were to get 270 electoral votes, this is how it would go down. This is how Kennedy would be able to win. So we do have some interesting polling that I've made an entire video simply about, that being these polls conducted by a researcher that put Kennedy head-to-head against Biden and Trump. And you can see that against Trump, Kennedy wins 270 to 268, a very narrow victory. And against Biden, Kennedy crushes President Biden 367 to 171. So these maps where Kennedy overlaps, where he is able to win states against Biden and versus Trump, that will be very important in figuring out which states that Kennedy will win in a hypothetical scenario where he gets 270 electoral votes. So, starting with states that we don't even have to look at in polling, these are going to be the most independent states in the country that have a record of voting for third parties, like Alaska, New Hampshire, to name a few. We can even go back to 1992 with Ross Perot. You can see in Maine's 2nd District, Ross Perot almost won that district. In Alaska, he almost got 2nd place. He got 28%. So a lot of these states, their roots are independent. They have independent and third-party roots. So that is states like Alaska, as I mentioned, New Hampshire, Maine at large, Maine's 2nd District, and then what am I blanking on? Isn't there 4? And then Utah, of course. So these are the 4 that I think Kennedy would be most easily able to win. If you look at Utah, for example, you can see that he wins it against Biden, of course, but he actually wins it against Trump, which was a big surprise to a lot of people, and that would be very interesting. You can really shows how against Trump, Kennedy can pull a lot of these, conservative leaning, but really disaffected Trump voters, by his rhetoric, by his tone, how he speaks. Kennedy is able to win a lot of those voters, in a religious state like Utah. So moving on now. I would if Kennedy were to get 270 electoral votes, I think that he would win states such as, not as high margins as the others, but he would win states like Vermont, Maine's 1st District, West Virginia, Kentucky, and we'll get to these two. That might surprise some people, as well as Colorado, and Arizona, and Oregon. So this is kind of the lower tier of states, but I definitely think that Kennedy will perform well in coal country and the Rust Belt, because here we have a lot of disaffected Trump voters, which yes, these are heavily Republican states, especially in coal country with Kentucky and West Virginia, but really, if Kennedy were to get 270 electoral votes, this is the kind of coalition he would have to build. These 2016 Trump voters and many 2020 Trump voters who voted for Trump, who were excited about Trump because he said that he would join the swamp. But Kennedy is now this anti-establishment candidate, and that is the type of candidate that coal country or Rust Belt voters are looking for. So I think that he would perform very well in cold country states like Kentucky and West Virginia, despite how Republican they may be. And I think that he would do well in states um, Indiana, as well as Ohio, even though that is a pretty strong Trump state, and Wisconsin. Um, so those I would give all to Kennedy. As for states like Colorado and Oregon, here we have, even though they're more progressive, and Kennedy is, many could argue that Kennedy is not progressive at all, but still, I think that he would be able to pull in a solid number of independent votes, whether they be progressive or not, because at the end of the day, they are independent votes. And if Kennedy is getting 270 electoral votes, this is how he would do it. In order to get 270, he would also have to carry the state of Massachusetts. This is the state where his family has such a legacy, so that would be in the list. And then looking at now the states where he wins against Trump and he wins against Biden. Also, that's Iowa, notably, Minnesota, notably, and then let's see, Virginia is another one. So I would say states like Iowa, Minnesota, and Virginia would all be Kennedy states in this scenario. And then you've got, and I was talking about this before, is the more conservative-leaning but disaffected Trump voters, just because of how he speaks and his rhetoric. And many would be fearful of another Trump term, despite being conservatives. And that would definitely play out across the Midwest, I think specifically, because we do have a large group of more traditional conservatives, these 2016 Ted Cruz voters, these more socially conservative voters. And I think that Kennedy, due to that, would be able to pull in states like Kansas. And in Idaho, you can actually see in 2016 how Idaho gave a total of 12% of their vote to Evan McMullin and Gary Johnson, an independent and libertarian, respectively. So, this is a state that actually has proven in history to be give a healthy amount of the vote to other third-party conservative candidates, I'll mind you, like Evan McMullin and Gary Johnson. Montana is another one. I think that same situation would play out, just because states like Montana, Idaho, and Kansas, they are more moderate when it comes to the conservative voters. The conservative voters do tend to be at least a bit more centrist than in other states. And now let's move on, I guess, to some states where where Kennedy doesn't really have a shot. And this is where these polls are useful, because you can see in a state like Pennsylvania, against both candidates, Kennedy, for whatever reason, loses the state. It goes to Biden, and it goes to Trump. So, as of right now, I do think that Biden will beat out Trump in Pennsylvania if the election was held tomorrow. So I do think that Pennsylvania will go Democratic. You can also see this. But looking at New York here, you can see that Kennedy actually beats President Biden in New York, and that was a big surprise to a lot of people, considering how democratic the state of New York is. And of course, he beats President Trump in the state of New York. So New York would actually be one that Kennedy would have to carry to get to 270. Let's see, other states. I really wish I looked at this beforehand, because I'm trying to find states where Kennedy loses in both scenarios, but there really aren't many. You can see how he wins California against Trump, but loses it to Biden. You can see how he wins Oregon in both scenarios, and he wins Washington against Biden. Biden wins Washington, but Kennedy wins Washington against Trump. So it really looks like there's really only the state of Pennsylvania, which Kennedy loses in either scenario. And then you come to the state of Georgia, where you actually see, in a surprise to me at least, in other states, Donald Trump still beats out Kennedy. But you can see in Georgia, Kennedy actually comes out on top, against Biden, of course, as expected, and against Trump. So I would say that Georgia would be a Kennedy state in his path to victory. And I also think that Florida would have to be, because we have a very large amount of senior citizen voters, and I think that they really could unexpectedly lead him to victory in the state, which would give him 30 more electoral votes. But that would be crucial because of that large electoral vote count. That would be crucial in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting to 270. Now, looking at some states now for Donald Trump, states like Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's 1st district, Nebraska's 3rd congressional district. Well, I will leave right now the 1st congressional district because that one might get a little close. But at least these, I don't see it. I don't see any possibility where Kennedy can, possibly pull out some win. These conservative voters are not moderate in the slightest. And these states would not be in his path to 270. They just wouldn't be. I would also argue that deep southern states like Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, I won't go to Tennessee yet, I guess, but Kennedy doesn't really have any sort of appeal here. He has no reason to appeal to these voters at all. Nothing about his policy standpoints would appeal to these southern conservative voters. And I also think that Oklahoma would go to him. You can see that all of these states that I just characterized, Trump wins against Kennedy in a general election in that poll. So that puts Trump at 48 electoral votes, Biden at 19. Now, we'll leave California for now because that one really is a tough call. But looking now against the states where Kennedy beats out Biden. So we characterized Wisconsin already, but you can see that in Rhode Island. Surprisingly, this was really surprising to me. But Kennedy beats Biden in Rhode Island, and then of course Kennedy beats Trump in Rhode Island because of how Democratic it is. I'll mind you, this is a state. This is a state that went to Biden by some 24%, I believe. Let's see, that's 2016. Went to Biden by 20%. Back in 2020. So, but he does beat both Biden and Trump in the state. In other states that overlap where Kennedy beats both, I don't think there are many now yet, or left, I mean. But yeah, I mean, there really, I don't think is any because, that's Trump versus Biden. But so you do see in New Mexico that Kennedy beats both, and that really does make sense. You have a good amount of independent voters here, and at least a lot who don't feel really pledged to the Democratic Party, even though this is a Democratic-leaning state. I do think that there are a lot of independent-minded, we'll say, voters who would be willing to cross party lines to support Kennedy. Missouri, what's happening in Missouri now? So, Missouri, Donald Trump wins against Kennedy, and then, of course, Kennedy wins it against Biden. So, Missouri is tough, but I would put this as a Trump state right now. I don't think that Kennedy would be able to win a state like Missouri. But looking at some of the not too big states like California and Texas, but Michigan, I think that he would be able to continue his Rust Belt appeal here. As I said, I think that he would be able to. Solidify, we'll say, these Rust Belt voters into voting for him. In Pennsylvania, that's tough because you have some more larger cities. But I think that he could do it on a more smaller scale, like Michigan, as well as Illinois. I think that if he is able to carry those blue-collar Rust Belt worker voters, as well as get enough votes in the Chicago area to turn the state against Biden. So That puts Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at 270 electoral votes, and this is his path to victory. I think that his shortest path to victory is the states that you see here. I think that he could let Donald Trump take Texas. I think that he could let Trump take Nebraska's first district, as well as Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Nevada. And I think that Biden would take California, which is big, and Kennedy could actually win, but I don't see it. I don't see it as probable as other states, even a state like Illinois. Biden would also carry Washington just because of how Democratic it is, Hawaii also, as well as Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I don't see it for Biden. So that puts Kennedy at 270 electoral votes, just the amount you need to win. And then also D.C. goes to Biden, and then Nebraska's second goes to Biden. So that puts Kennedy at 270 electoral votes, Donald Trump at 141, and Joe Biden at 127. This is Kennedy's path to victory. So thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you all enjoyed. It helps me out a lot. Please, give me a subscription. Costs nothing to you, and it really helps out a lot. And make sure to watch all my other videos. So thank you all again for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. And by the way, next episode 2 of the Wide Awake Show, should be out tomorrow, and it will be about oh my god, why am I blanking here? Oh my gosh, I just had the idea and now I'm forgetting it. Whatever, meta censorship of these Kennedy ads. That's what it'll be about. So make sure to tune into that tomorrow. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you all later.